So the question you're all here for, can an adjustable kettlebell be a practical and cost-effective solution? I have reviewed and extensively used 2 specific styles of adjustable kettlebells, and today we're going to find out which of those kettlebells might just fit your needs. Let's dive in. Let's start with the first basic style. This is a basic adjustable kettlebell. I call it a basic adjustable kettlebell because they're all going to look exactly like this, except they have all the plates put in them. And it does not matter at all what the brand is. As you will see, this exact style is from Alibaba as well. And people just put their label on it. So just so you know, if it looks like this, it doesn't really matter what brand it is. This is the style I am referring to. Starting out with the first pro for this basic adjustable kettlebell is the ease of switching plates. I have been using this kettlebell for years now, and it is definitely the easiest in terms of changing the weight once you get the hand of the toggle on the top. It's a little bit finicky and can take a little bit of strength to get it to move initially, but once you get the hang of it, it's easy. The plates slide out, and you can slide them back in and lock them so that way they're safely in place when you go to do your swings. The next pro for this one is affordability. This kettlebell comes at usually a great price point, around $85. But you might be interested to know that most of these brands source this exact product from Alibaba, and the cost per unit is roughly $40 per kettlebell from Alibaba. It's essentially just the same product, just rebranded and resold. The next pro for this particular kettlebell, which is why I still use it as part of my training for certain exercises, is the weight flexibility. It can range all the way down to a super lightweight, even 5 pounds. And it can go all the way up to almost 40 pounds. However, it's worth mentioning that if you're going down below 9 pounds even for kettlebells, then kettlebell training might not exactly be the right fit for you. The essence of true kettlebell training really relies on the mass of the kettlebell to help maintain momentum through specific movements, like the swing, just as an example. If you're finding that a lot of your movements are requiring super lightweight because they're challenging to perform with proper form, you might want to consider just doing a different modification of that particular movement with a dumbbell, for example. The next pro about this particular adjustable kettlebell kind of applies to all kettlebells, and it also transitions into being a con, which is the adaptability of the adjustable kettlebell so it can facilitate different training outcomes and also different types of kettlebell movements for different training outcomes. If you're trying to approach strength training, cardiovascular training, weight loss, agility, speed, endurance, any of those particular things, balance, coordination, all of these specifics are going to require different training progression and different variables of intensity and volume in your training. By having an adjustable kettlebell, such as this basic one that is relatively easy to change out the plates with, it makes this much more manageable. Furthermore, for specific movement styles with kettlebell training, such as the ballistic and the grind movements, some people can't do the same weight for different movements. While having to change the plates is definitely disruptive for your flow, you still don't want to forego proper form just to try to crank out the movement. With adjustable kettlebells, it's a pro because you can change out the weight plates relatively easily to continue your flow, but you're still going to have to stop in the middle of the workout and change the plates instead of walking over and grabbing a kettlebell weight off of a rack. So it's still a minor inconvenience that sometimes people will ignore, keep plowing through the movements, and compromise their form. So that's not the only con. The next con I'm going to discuss has to do with the shape of the actual handles. If you can see this, the handles are pretty wide. And for competition grade kettlebells, this is not anything like competition grade. So if you're practicing with the intention of doing some type of kettlebell competition work, then this is not going to fly because it's nothing like a competition kettlebell. The width of the handlebars also make it challenging because I'm a small person, and to do swings, this doesn't really pass between my legs really easily when I'm doing something double-handed especially. So considering the handlebar width of these, you can definitely start off with these kettlebells and they'll get you far enough. But if you're trying to advance competitively or you're getting really into kettlebell training, you might want to just consider a professional grade kettlebell. The other con of this is the pain in the forearm when you try to do a rack position. I have had to learn to put my forearm here. When you rotate around and you rest it on your hand, this cuts into your forearm, even when it's resting on that plate part. And if you're not, it will really cut into your arm. My husband, Josh, he was doing this and he actually sliced his forearm with the edge of this. So very careful and consider wristbands, sweat guards. I'll put links to the description of all products discussed in this video, but realistically, these are just basic. You could make these out of socks you cut up if you wanted to, but the point is to give yourself some cushion. So this is the con, the biggest con with this one for me, especially when you're trying to cut down on the weight and there's this huge space here that you got to deal with. So just consider that as well. All right, now let's move on to the competition grade adjustable kettlebell. The first pro you're going to notice about the adjustable competition grade kettlebell is how much better it feels in your hand and on your wrist. This is the handle on this one. It's definitely a thicker handle, and you'll notice it's much more upright. This is competition grade. You can see the whole thing. I love this one. Even with these, I still recommend wrist guards, and I don't have them with me, but there's something called dry grip that for people with super sweaty palms, it can be very helpful. You don't want to use too much of it, but if you're doing a lot of kettlebell training, after a while, your hand can get pretty sweaty, so it can be helpful to make sure that you can still grip it, because that can get very dangerous as you're doing a lot of swings. The next pro of this one is also kind of a con for some people, but it's the weight capacity for the adjustable competition grade kettlebells. For some people, it's way too much weight. However, it is competition level, so the weight requirements are going to be met for those. And also, it never changes its shape, which is really beneficial. This is the shape of every competition grade kettlebell. So whether it's 8 kilograms or 24 kilograms, which is kind of the standard of how a lot of kettlebells are in the metric system for competition. At least they're measured that way, but they're all the same shape, no matter how light they are. The con of this is that an empty shell of these guys is still pretty heavy, especially if you're brand new, you're ultra beginner, still trying to figure out the movements, just learning. It's still really heavy as an empty shell. So just consider that. Another pro to mention, based on the body type of the particular kettlebell, is that it is definitely still easy to pass in between the legs, even though it's adjustable, because it is the size of a competition, size and shape of a competition kettlebell. The other one that I have, the handles are much wider, even though this looks like a larger kettlebell, their handles are wider. And so it still has a weird shape to try to pass in between the legs. This one pivots really well in the hand as I'm using it, and it makes the swings much more manageable. Double-handed swings are just challenging in general for a lot of people, especially smaller people, to get in between their legs. But for this one, the single-handed swings are much more comfortable on my wrist and hand. The con with this particular style that is available, actually it's in shortage right now of this particular style, but there's a lot of different providers. It's a similar concept. It's offered and rebranded by popular brands, but for this one, the biggest con is trying to change the plates. It is so much of an inconvenience, especially if you're trying to remember, okay, I need to progress myself, I need to be changing the plates, I need to be diligent on it. It is very hard to want to have to do because of what's required. Now, it won't look too much. Maybe it won't look very challenging in the video, but when you're thinking about it in terms of, okay, I'm in the middle of my workout, you end up just going between two different weights if you can't do a movement. You're not going to change it in the middle of your workout. It's just not going to happen. So that's the worst with this one. So I give it an F. For ease of changing things. But it's competition grade. And for some people, that's very important. It is much more comfortable. It's easier to do all the movements. It's true kettlebell training because it really does rely on the momentum of the mass of the kettlebell. So yeah, it's definitely great in those ways, but it's terrible trying to change the plates. This is a little heavy, I should probably take one out. Just give me a sec. Actually, there's one more con with this one. How much does it cost? An arm and a leg. Depending on where you buy this style, it could either be $250 to $300, or if you're lucky enough to find the one that I found on Amazon, it's like $150. But as of the making of this video, all of them are out of stock right now. Probably because they're all from the same supplier. Now, before I leave you with some closing notes on weight selection, I wanted to give an honorable mention to a specific brand that I have not yet found its equivalent on Alibaba. And this is a Rep Fitness adjustable kettlebell. This one in particular touts its ease of changing the plates in the middle of a workout even, and it's close to the size and shape of a competition grade kettlebell. It's not quite there, so I can't give it the big thumbs up for that, but it's close. So because it wasn't exactly the competition style, I did not get it for myself, but it is closer than the basic one that is cheap. As you can see, the price point is in between both of them, so it does depend on how heavy you're purchasing for yourself or what the price is, but it's the $160 to $230 range from this particular supplier. I don't know if there's going to be any other suppliers out there that offer this model, but as of now, this was the one that I could find. So now you may have zeroed in on the exact adjustable kettlebell brand or style that you want, but maybe you're just not sure based on all the weight ranges that the particular listings are offering, which one you should go with. Here's a basic weight breakdown, suggestions per level and also biological sex. Male beginners should consider starting with a 35-pound kettlebell, which is also 16 kilograms. Beginner female athletes should consider starting around 18 pounds or 8 kilograms. This is just a general suggestion. If you're very new to weightlifting, I definitely suggest a little bit lighter. However, the true nature of kettlebell training is to utilize the momentum of the mass of the actual kettlebell. Some movements are atrocious when performed with extremely light weight because people will end up using their back instead of the momentum of the weight to pull them into the proper movement pattern. But anyways, intermediate lifters, 44 pounds or 20 kilograms for men and 26 pounds or 12 kilograms for women. Advanced male athletes can consider 53 pounds or 24 kilograms, and advanced women can consider 35 pounds or 16 kilograms. I can't stress enough though, these are just general suggestions. If you're trying to be super specific based on agility, training balance, coordination, training specific variables, these may be different. And don't forget to keep in mind, especially in the beginning stages, not everyone will be able to use the same weight for every movement that they're completing in a kettlebell flow. It's ideal, but you may not be at that stage yet. So in conclusion, whether you opt for the basic or the competition grade adjustable kettlebell, the right choice depends on your training goals, your budget, and whether or not you're actually competing. Each of these have their pros and cons, but both styles, depending on your needs, can be extremely valuable tools. And just full disclosure, I do have both styles, and I use them both in my training weekly. And if you love what I do and the information that I provide in these videos, consider being part of my community by joining the membership program that I now have as part of my channel. By doing that, you're not only contributing to me continuing to create this free content with my husband, who is the editor, but you're also helping in graduate research endeavors of mine and also product development, as I am trying to address problems and inaccuracies that do exist in our world with current equipment that is available. So you can be part of all the projects and all the behind the scenes if you become a member. Some of my members even get an exclusive chance to be featured in a spotlight video where I go through your workout program and your training routine and I analyze it for you. That's only if you opt for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, because it looks like 97% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed, yet they keep coming back. If you're one of them, please subscribe. Drop a comment for future video ideas that you might have or any questions. Always remember, your health is an investment, not an expense.